This up and down season has left us without a repeat winner for 4 rounds in. Indeed, consistency has once again been proven as the best way to get ahead. Our points leader Verity is the only driver with 3 podiums out of the 4 rounds. Will he finally be able to snatch a win here today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sebring's bumps often gobble up cars as drivers underestimate its difficulty. Will it swing the hammer of attrition today? Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. And there you see a little bit more about this place, but here with these open wheel cars, which usually honestly only show up when IndyCar tests here, what's it going to be like in a race format, DJ?
Well, Joe, to say the least, it is going to be interesting. This track can really be split into 2 separate sectors for these open-wheel Indy Pro 2000s. The first sector, starting from Turn 1, really going all the way up to Tower in Turn 13, is going to be a twisty technical section. You're not going to see a whole heck of a lot of overtaking. The track is very, very narrow. But from there on back, specifically that long backstretch and up the front straightaway, you are going to see drafting and overtaking galore. The way these cars are configured, there's not a lot of downforce on them, but you are going to see a mega slipstream effect for them going down into Sunset Bend. And as we've seen the last time this series visited here, you're going to be able to see a good fight back going down the pit straightaway. But these drivers are going to have to be very, very careful. One of the things we always talk about at Sebring is the bumps, and in these open wheelers, you are going to feel it every step of the way. You've got to be very, very careful and smooth on the throttle, specifically in the first half of that lap, the tricky technical section, as it will catch you out if you're not careful.
Yeah, certainly has caught me out plenty of the times that I've run here. But today's race specifically, of course, is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL Indy Pro 2000 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulations. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Now, as we take a look at the drivers' points, starting off with the Pro Championship, up at the top, Verity, still without a win, is leading Alex Guyon by 9 points. And then it's only 2 down to Greg Seitz. But again, Greg has had a couple bad races this season. Last round at VIR and then the first one at Long Beach have not treated him well, which is why he's not leading the way. Owen McLaughlin and Frank Nguyen round out your top 5. Frank has really been a revelation this season and could be a challenger later on if he keeps up his good finishes. What about the AM Championship right now, DJ?
Well, Tyler Gore is currently sitting atop those standings. He has been able to rack up a win and 3 top 5s in those AM standings. These are for drivers with a lower I rating than the pro drivers. But Brian Hotham not too far behind him, only 11 points back. And about the same distance back, we have a tie between Barry Cochran and Donald Olson. So that is going to be very, very close, as well as 16 points back of that, another tie between David Hebert and Brett Accord. So lots and lots of close racing here for all these top 5s. And then Adam Wright certainly getting in on that action for the battle for 4th. He's only 2 points back of Accord and Hebert. So this AM Championship, very, very close in certain points, but Gore has been putting in a lot of good consistency to try to pull away.
Now, as for the Teams Championship, Blown Tranny Racing has narrowly got it right now. Rust Racing still chasing them by a single point. SRT Esport Blue could make themselves a part of the mix if they can manage to be more consistent between the pair of them. Parabola Racing is only 5 points behind them as well. And then finally get quite a jump back to Lavoie Motorsports, not showing the incredible pace that they had last season to nearly the degree that they had it. Now, for today's race, I believe, DJ, you've got the race details.
I do indeed. This is the halfway point of the first season of 2021. It is round 5 of 10. As always, it is a 45-minute race in these Indy Pro 2000 cars, these open wheel American feeder series cars. It is an open setup, but there is a fuel requirement of 65%. So that means that these guys will have to make a pit stop. We'll talk about that a little bit later, as pit strategy could be interesting here at Sebring. There are some penalty points that do get awarded for off tracks and for contact. Drivers will get a drive-through at 11 incident points and disqualified at 20. And at a place like Sebring, where runoff can definitely come out to bite you, we have to keep an eye on that. But on top of all of that, there are bonus points available for pole, fastest lap, and 3 incidents or less.
And as we look at the qualifying happening right now, Greg Seitz holds the provisional pole and actually just set another fastest lap, half a second ahead of David Menino, our winner from last week at VIR. So Greg has got himself a nice little buffer, and it looked like it was pretty similar in the practice. So this is kind of playing out how you would have expected based on their times they showed in the warm-up. Guyon actually running out the top 3 currently. Oh, and how about this? Our points leader, Verity. He just jumped up into 4th with a 155.5.
And I see Verity doing a very, very good job to get up there, but Alex Guyon pipping him ever so slightly. As you see here, Verity working his way through that twisty section. We ride on board. You can feel some of the bumps that come on here. This is a quick blast down to the hairpin. This looks like, if you're looking on the track map, Joe, that it'd be a great place to... The truth of the matter is that it is way, way too tight down into this hairpin. There's really only one line before you get back through this twisty bit.
And of course it heads into Fangio and up towards Cunningham, another spot where we tend to see overtaking here. We've switched over to Guyon though, and he is currently coming through Bishop. Let's see if he can improve on that 55.4. He's got 8/10 to make up to the pole. That's nearly a full second's worth. So, man, it's going to be a tough ask for the 808 to try and get that bonus point for the top spot. And he's got about 5.5 minutes left to do it. But look at the lap times around here, DJ. It's almost 2 minutes worth just to get around a single time.
Yeah, we normally don't think of Sebring as one of the longer tracks on the American calendar, but it certainly is. It is a very, very long track, and there you can see as Guyon works his way around. He's able to run over that white line there. That is totally acceptable. Crossing the start-finish line, able to improve ever so slightly on his time there, down to a 55.412. That's a better time, but not enough to get him up to the likes of Menino.
Oh, and he definitely messed up this lap as he seems to have lost it through turn one. It doesn't look like he hit anything, so he might be able to get going and get another flyer out there. Verity just improved, and Verity up to the front row. He goes just ahead of Menino by less than 1/10 of a second. Steven showing he's still got the might to compete, and obviously intent on trying to get that first win of the season as we follow with him through the 3, 4, 5 complex and out through Big Bend.
Steven really starting to assert here. He is able to get that lead in the championship. As you've said, he's been able to keep it through just consistency, but you ask a driver if they'd rather win a championship or win a bunch of races, and I guarantee you a lot of them are going to want to win races. It's just that pride thing for him. There you can see him working through that hairpin like we talked about, making his way up through Fangio. This is one of the most bumpy parts of the circuit. You can see the different types of surface that come in there. Almost lost the car there coming around that quick kink before turn 10.
As we watch him, I'm keeping half an eye on Nguyen, who's down in 8th in qualifying. Let's see what he can do. Nope, not an improvement, unfortunately, for the 97. He'll have to go around again, see if he can do better. He heads it around the very quick and very blind first corners. There's another car spun around. Oh, and he's going to clip whoever that was. It looks like maybe Michael Broomhead caught him.
Yeah, and Broomhead making a quick apology over the radio. We'll take a quick look back at it here. This is, I believe, Broomhead on your screen coming around, or no, excuse me, this is Nguyen coming around. You can see Broomhead just ahead of him. Michael just did not anticipate that closing speed. Little bit of clip of the left rear tire to Nguyen, so that's going to stop him in his tracks.
No improvement for J.R. Williams, so he'll stay put in 5th. Verity is coming around for another quick lap. So the 04, who comes down to the line on his 155.1, looks like 0.3 off of his best time. That's not going to do it.
Yeah, he's got to try to eke out a little bit more, but that traffic in front of him, that can potentially slow him down. And Joe, I think we may run into a little bit of that slower traffic here today. Not going to be as big of a problem with such a long lap time, but if the leaders do encounter some traffic, it can certainly throw up some roadblocks for him.
One of our next front runners to hit the line is going to be Julio Palacio. He's going through Jean Debienne up to Le Mans. And the 194 actually might get a little bit of a tow from Barry Cochran. There you can see Cochran ahead of him. Cochran's going to pull over, so he's not going to give him much of a ride down the Ullman Straights. Palacio gives him a thank you for letting him through and not holding him up. We ride on board, watching from the helmet cam of the number 194. He sits on the outside of row 3. He's way wide, though, coming through Sunset Bend. I'm not sure that's going to be the fastest way around there, as he crosses a 55.80s, 1/10 off of his best.
Yeah, Joe, and there are multiple lines you can take down in through that Sunset Bend when you are battling through with somebody, and it is traditional to see a lot of guys take that very, very wide, but a little bit too wide there for Julio. Now we ride on board with Brett Thurman. He is currently down in 11th place. He is part of the sister team to Julio you were just watching, so let's see how he can handle this corner. Got to get close to that there. It's lightly on the brakes, a lot tighter, a little bit more clean there for Brett. I think he actually could have taken that a hair more wide to keep himself some more speed. But let's see what he does at the line. It's going to be faster for Brett with a 55.488.
And that gets him all the way up to 6. So he nearly halves his position. That is a great jump for him. As we come back on board here with Greg Seitz, our pole sitter, on his last flying lap. We'll see if he feels good enough about it to take it all the way through and try and improve. I can tell you that Verity is out there. It looks like he's on a flyer. So is Menino. I see Williams and Palacio. So that's almost all of our top 7. Guyon and Thurman have gone into the pits here at the end of the qualifying. So a couple of them have abandoned and are intent on improving. This is Jared Williams that we're watching right now in the 5th place.
And JR here working his way through the corners. You've got to be so careful here. Even though there is virtually no elevation change, this track literally on the swamps of Central Florida, it is just deceptively tricky. Some of these corners very long and tempt you to want to get on that throttle early, and that is a one-way ticket off into the grass as there comes the checkered flag. So these are going to be the last flying laps for everybody to count.
Palacio's the first one to come across the line, and he does improve. It's a 55.592, but he stays in 7th. It's a small margin of coming forward. Bart Cook looks like he doesn't get to set a time that time as we wait for the next car to come around the final corner. I see David Hebert in the 16. His quickest is a 2.5. And that's not going to be any faster. That's way down for Hebert, to be honest. Used to seeing him much higher up the order. Duhamel, he doesn't improve. Who's next? Looks like Colander actually last on the field right now, and he's going to stay last on the field, unfortunately. Then we've got second place Verity, just ahead of Takeshi Kita, who we're on board with. The 04 comes down to the line, and he doesn't go quicker than his 55.1, unfortunately. What about Kita? Looks like he's in pit lane, so he's not happy with that. And I think, yes, Takeshi Kita is our last driver that was able to set a time, so that will end it, and our grid is in concrete now. So let's go through our starting order for today. Greg Seitz has put it on the pole, and based on what we've seen so far, it's going to be tough to beat him. Stephen Verity might be up to the task, though. He'll start on the outside of that front row. David Menino starts in 3rd with Alex Gaillon in P4. Then it's J.R. Williams in 5th and Brett Thurman to his outside. Row 4 has Julio Palacio starting 7th and Olivier Legault starting in 8th. Sean Duhamel is 9th, and Frank Nguyen rounds out your top 10.
Michael Broomhead, we saw him have that spin in qualifying, but he was able to put the car in 11th place, followed by Dave Peterson in 12th. Matthew Hall will line up 13th, followed by your AM Championship leader, Tyler Gore, in 14th. Row 8 will be made up by Brian Hotham and Christopher Richards, and behind them in row 9, Lucio Vargas and Donald Olson. Don Bowden and Adam Wright will make up the 10th row behind them.
Takeshi Kita, only good enough for 21st, surprisingly low for the number 30 car. Aaron Roos will start in 22nd, and then it's Paul Wildridge in 23rd. Bart Cook, good enough for 24th, followed by Neil Alexander in 25th, and then Matthew Gunderson starts outside of him in 26th. Brett Accord starts P27. The 28th position will be Barry Cochran, a Bear in 29th, and Colander, the last driver on the field, in 30th. All 30 cars have managed to get a qualifying time in today. And I think they're going to need some of the luck, some of the skill, a bit of everything to be able to pull the win away today, as this is a punishing track here, DJ, and they're getting ready to get lined up. I mean, what do you consider the most important factor to taking away the trophy today?
Well, Joe, I think one of the things you're going to have to consider a lot is going to be the weather. You know, the last time we were here, it was in the morning virtual sim time. Now it's the afternoon, and track temperatures are up to 96 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's going to be a little bit hotter than a lot of these guys want to do. I think some of what this may come down to is going to be pit strategy, whether or not you decide to take tires in the pit or save yourself maybe a second or two on the way out. The other thing that is going to have to be taken into consideration is where to be aggressive. This is a track where you can pass, and it is very easy to pass, but if you try to make a move through that twisty first half of the track, like we talked about in pre-race, it will come back to bite you. You've got to be patient and make those moves going into sunset, going on to that first corner, and maybe if you can get a good run out of Big Bend to make it into the hairpin. But other than that, you just need to be patient and not try to force the issue too much.
Waiting for everybody to grid up, and the Porsche pace car is going to lead them around on the single pace lap, and we will go racing for 45 minutes here in round 5. Will we get our first repeat winner? It is currently with Greg Seitz having won one. And we've had Nick Johnston, who won the first round. And we saw Menino win one, and then Declan Eady has won a race so far. Of those drivers, right now, we've got Seitz on the pole, Menino in third. And where is Johnston actually with us today? I don't think I've seen Johnston out here.
No, both Johnson and Edie are not here, so that's certainly going to be a little bit disappointing for some of our early leaders not seeing them on a track like Sebring.
Okay, so it looks like chances are, in fact, good that we might get another winner. 5 out of 5 this round. Of course, Seitz is going to try and stop that and take away his second win of the season and try to get himself back up to the top in the points. And speaking of needing some luck, it seems like some of this season has been just a case of Greg Seitz getting the bad end of the stick. I mean, last round it was due to traffic just kind of being in an unfortunate place and a miscommunication.
Yeah, exactly. And Joe, this is a real change from what we saw Greg put in 2 seasons ago when he and Joshua Chen had the fierce battle for the championship, but Greg was just absolutely on par and perfect. So it's what can happen in racing. Sometimes bad luck begets bad luck, and Greg falling a victim of that. But he is going to be on a warpath, I think, really wanting to get himself up there. He's going to have to be careful, though, especially coming into this first corner. He's going to want to try to get a good jump on the field and avoid the potential carnage that happens behind him. That first corner is very, very wide, but it tightens very, very quickly. And we have seen time and time again that it is a big place for accidents to happen.
And an interesting note as well, because we keep talking about Verity's consistency. And one thing to note about that is that the one race that he did not get on the podium was on the oval round, which is a little bit more understandable, as that's an oddball out this season. So all the road courses, he's finished within those top 3 spots. He's looking good to try and keep it up today, and does seem to point towards the fact that Verity could sneak that victory in if things fall the right direction. But the speed of Greg Seitz, both in previous rounds and in today's race, has been looking very mighty. So it'll be a tough one to try and overtake the number 74 as we now come out of Collier and through Tower up towards Bishop and Jean d'Ambien. One thing that I did not notice until recently, studying up for this race, I wasn't aware that they moved what looked like the pits for the 1,000 kilometers of Sebring over to this portion of the track.
Did they really? I don't think I even knew that either.
I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong here. From what I looked up on the information, it looked like the pits were in a different location than they normally were, which if that's the case, very interesting move. But it makes sense because they have a lot of paved area over here, as you can see already, of what used to be the airport. As we come now down the Ullman Straight, the Porsche pace car will let them go out of Sunset Bend. I'm hoping we don't have too many accidents into that Sunset Bend, because that is a fast corner. And if drivers do try to go side by side, then they might find themselves tangling and then straight into the wall to the outside, which can easily end your day. And they don't have a spare car to help them out here. So as Greg Seitz gets ready to take control, is it going to be an early start, or will he hold them? Porsche pace car getting ready to duck away. There it goes. And green flag comes out immediately. Ooh, some of them checked up there. Someone on the second row falls back. I think that was Guyon, who finds himself swamped by the rest of the field. Looking around the outside, Greg Seitz tries to hold ahead of Menino, but it's going to be tight through turn 1. He'll manage to eke ahead. 3 wide behind them. And among them, Verity's going to back out. Looks like Thurman gets a great advantage around the outside. Can he hold the spot? Looking for third over J.R. Williams. It's not quite there, and then we've got a big accident as I see multiple cars suddenly falling down the order. DJ, did you manage to catch what happened there?
I did not, Joe. I was too focused in on what was happening at the front of the field, watching Stephen Verity absolutely fall down the order. Brett Thurman thinking about making a move is Thurman, and that's J.R. Williams making contact, coming down into the hairpin.
Oh, no. Williams is off. Thurman is off. They're heading down the field. Verity actually still is up in third. I think it was Guyon who lost a lot of the spots at the start. Oh boy, what an eventful first half lap that we've had. Your new order: Seitz ahead of Menino, Verity in third. We've got Palacio up to fourth. Remember, he qualified in seventh today, so 3 positions up, and he's not even done with the first lap.
Palacio doing a great job, and Joe, to jump back to the start, it looks like Donald Olson got his tire out onto the grass at turn 1, and it just created a parking lot. It wasn't necessarily a big accident with a lot of damage. Everybody able to take it pretty slow, but that's what looked like happened for Donald Olson.
We'll try and come back to that later. But in the meantime, already our car is heading towards the finish of lap 1. Seitz with a 1.4 second lead over Menino. All that fighting amongst the top group behind him has slowed them up. Verity's another 1.5 seconds behind in third. And then we finally start to get a train. Palacio behind him. Legault. Guyon has managed to keep it to 6. Oh, but he just lost a spot. Peterson coming through on Sunset Bend. He sneaks into P6.
And here comes Frank Nguyen trying to take that spot away from Alex Guyon as well, down up the inside. Is he going to be able to hold it? We ride on board with Nguyen. You can see Guyon just to the outside. Looks like Guyon's able to get the nose out and ahead, but Nguyen on now under attack from Matthew Hall. Those two drivers seeming like they are in a battle every single race. What happened there, Joe, is Guyon went very, very wide coming into Sunset, and that just set him up to get gobbled up.
Indeed, and it's not over for poor Guyon, because now Nguyen is behind him. Doesn't poke his nose out, though. He's going to stay in line. Maybe things are finally settling into a rhythm. I believe I counted about 6 or 7 cars involved in that opening wreck. I know Brian Hotham and Donald Olson were both involved in that. That'd be the 413 and the 27, and then there were many others that just piled in turn 3. Let's see if we can pull that up and try and dissect it.
As we jump back to the GSRC replay here, you can see this is the start from the back of the field's perspective. Now, you can see that big checkup that you mentioned there, Joe, really forcing people wide, making a big, big cluster of cars. Now watch Olson. He'll come down here to the inside and clip the grass in the second part of that corner. And that's going to upset the car. Now, as they go down here, you see the checkup with the cars in front. Olson gets too far onto the left, and there you can see it. Not a big impact. Ooh, but he does make some big contact there with, I think that's either Hotham or Hebert. No, excuse me, that's Wildridge.
Yeah, so at least everybody's still running. Wildridge and Williams did have to come in for repairs. Williams, of course, involved in a different incident. But we ride on board with Verity currently, trying to chase down David Menino for that second spot. As he heads into turn 3. Behind them, it does look like I'm also kind of watching Legault and Palacio for 4th place. So we got 2 pairs here amongst our top 5 that are within half a second of one another.
And Joe, those gaps are going to be important to watch. We talk about it a little bit more on ovals, but on that draft-heavy tracks like this, these open-wheel cars, it's about 1.5 to 1.8 seconds that the draft is effective within. If you are outside of that gap, you are not getting the benefit of the car in front of you punching a hole in the air. So Greg Seitz very clearly knows that. He's been able to get that gap up to 2.4 seconds, so he is well clear of Menino.
Oh, we're heading over to Cook and his fun here as we ride on board with the car in 21st. Just ahead of him, look at that. That's Bowden and Gunderson going side by side into Cunningham. Gunderson to the outside, almost defends successfully, but it looks like Bowden gets a better run through Collier. He's going to sneak through, and he's going to bring along Bart Cook, who tries to get to the inside of the 33. Gunderson denies him, though.
That's some good heads-up driving there from Matthew Gunderson, keeping that car nice and collected all the way through Tower as they make their way through Bishop right now. That's going to put him a little bit of disadvantage. If I'm Bart Cook, I'm going to want to keep my eyes ahead, though. I know the long Almond Straight's coming.
Verity just got into second place, or maybe not. He's side by side with Menino, who fights back through Sunset Bend. He got a great run down the Almond Straight, and here's what you've been talking about. They're going to go side by side once again in a drag race down into the first corner. Advantage Verity, but he's got to get it done. Does he swing out and let his car track all the way out? He does. A little bit of better momentum for David Menino. Defense from Verity down into turn 3. Battle's not over, but now he shuts the door, and that gets P2 for the 04.
And you saw what David Menino was doing there that entire way. He knew that Verity had the inside line, so he set his car up a little bit wider, tried to go for the over-under, but there's just not quite enough racetrack to make that work. But we're going to jump back to Takashi Kita, who is up a whopping 8 positions from the start.
Might make it 9. Here comes Adam Wright just in front of him, and he's going to poke his nose out. Wright's not going to fight it. In fact, I think there was maybe a tiny lift coming down to the hairpin. So Takeshi now up into 12th position. Next on his list is going to be Tyler Gore, just about 1.2 seconds up the road.
And Tyler Gore continuing his strategy of continuing to move his way up the charts from relatively poor qualifying positions. And the same is true with Takashi Kita, but we've got a battle right behind them. That's Don Bowden.
Indeed, he's just behind Cochran, but they're leading along. Gunderson and Cook, we're watching these two a little bit earlier in their fight, and currently as they come through Collier and into Tower, tricky braking zone, way too much curb for Cochran, and Bowden knows it. He's going to look to the inside of Bishop, but that'll be the outside of Jean Debienne as they almost bang wheels through there, and it works out in the favor of the number 5. Give him 18th.
Great move. We're going to check back. Battles happening all over the track. This is Hall and Peterson going for an absolute drag race down the Almond Straight. You can see him trying to work it in there the best that he can. I don't think it's going to work out exactly the way Matthew Hall wanted. Greg Seitz setting up the fastest lap, but Hall now lining back up for seeing if he can get a draft down the main straightaway, that front stretch. Little bit too far back. It looks like that Peterson just a little bit outsmarting him there.
Ooh, Colander, the 973, seems to have had a problem, and I think he got some help. And unfortunately, it was Hotham again with the contact.
Hotham just having a rough day. Is there, you can see Colander very slow down that back straightaway. There's some suspension damage. Looking at the way that wiggles around. Oh, yeah, and you can see the rear arrow there flying off.
We're going to look at the replay of this incident. Yeah, that's a bizarre one. I've never seen the rear engine cover, or I guess the engine cover is always on the rear of these things. I've never seen it looking like it's ready to flop off like that before, especially with the rest of the car still intact. Let's see. This is going to happen into Le Mans, so next corner here.
All right, so they're making their way around. The way this is shaping up, I have a fear that I know what it's going to be. Is it just a little bit too much? Yep. Not anticipating where the car in front is. Big punt there. You can see the front wing going. And Joe, from that angle, it looks like that there is a little bit of rear wing damage to Hotham. So that's engine cover, not the only thing off on that car.
Speaking of damage, as we go and check on the battle between Menino and Verity, Guyon was falling down the order, and I didn't have a chance to mention it, but now he's in pit lane, and actually I think he just came out, so he must have finished his pit stop. He must have gotten some sort of damage or something. That was very strange for the 808 to lose so much position on track and then suddenly come in this early, because it's certainly not it's certainly not time for pit stops yet.
No, it's not. I think he's got some floor damage of some kind. That's probably what he was going into repair, but we're going to ride on board with Matthew Hall here as he's trying to chase down Dave Peterson ahead of him. Got a good gap back to Sean Duhamel, about 5 seconds back up the road, but he's laying his eyes on Dave Peterson and Frank Nguyen. Alex Guyon was involved in this battle early, but had to fall back.
Indeed. As we watch them work their way through Big Bend now, being led by Nguyen in that 6th position. Peterson leading ahead of, now we're looking once again up at Verity. Under attack from Menino, who wants that second position back. Now that Verity has gotten it from him, he is definitely under threat. Man, the 3 I thought would fall away, considering he qualified behind the 04, but no such case today.
Not at all. David Menino being very, very cool and collected here. And Joe, there's something that sneaks into the back of my head, which is that David may be thinking about a little bit of pit strategy here. He may be trying to save a few tenths of a gallon to try to eke himself out one more lap when it comes to a pit cycle. There is plenty of room to save and conserve around here with the draft as big as it is.
Right on board with David, coming out of Le Mans onto the Ullman Straight. This will probably be telling to see if he is lifting or not. But as that's happening, I think Dave Peterson's under threat. It's looking like a very good run from Matthew Hall. He is gaining hand over fist, but he's running out of straightaway. Does he dare try and put his nose in? No, he can't get there in time.
He is going to take a bit of a more narrow line there, Joe. Just try to set himself a little bit up differently down the front straight than Dave Peterson, but that did not work out for him. Matthew Hall trying everything he can do. The Florida driver trying to get by Peterson, but Peterson just knowing exactly where to have good speed.
Oh, and who is that off course? Is that a lapped car? Trying to make that out.
That's Nguyen.
Oh! And he falls down to 8th with that error. Let's check out the replay. We just missed it off screen. I think he did this to himself.
Yeah, this looks relatively unforced. He was trying to close in there on Olivier Legault in front of him. So we watch this coming through the first corner here. Does he just run it wide? Yeah, that's exactly what he does.
Oh, and as we come back live, we got to go to Menino. He's got a very good run, and Verity's having to defend down into Cunningham. He's able to hold on to the position. We hop on board with David riding just behind Steven, coming through Collier. He had probably his best opportunity yet to try and effect a pass. Made a bit of a half-hearted move, but clearly at least wants to try and make the 04 sweat.
Exactly, and Joe, I always bring this up when we're talking about close races like this. If I'm in David's position, one of the things he's thinking about when he pokes his nose out like that, it's not necessarily about making the move outright. It's about getting into the headspace of the driver in front of you. And there you see a little bit of a run wide from Stephen Verity, a mistake we're not used to seeing from him. And so Menino able to catch up here big time down Ullman. He may have been able to get into Verity's headspace. Verity goes defensive, trying to hold him off. I think he's got it done for now. He's got a gap, but who can get the power down faster?
Ooh, it's decent for Verity, but he's going to pull along Menino once again down the front stretch as he starts to close. And he once again just needs to be a little closer. Slightly different lines between the pair of them through turn 1. And this fighting, you know what else it's done here, DJ? Look at the gap on the tower up to sights, 6.5 seconds.
That's just mind-boggling, Joe. I mean, he is just absolutely dominant. You know, let's knock on wood, all of the wood that you have if you are a Greg Seitz fan. We don't want to see something like we did last week at VIR, where he had a very similar performance, but very much in control of this race. We jump back here to Verity with Menino continuing to close.
This has been one of the best battles of the race between this pair, and we're only 15 minutes in. Back into the last corner that we saw an attack from Menino. Doesn't give one this time. The good news for them is that they have managed to keep Julio Palacio at bay. It's about 2.5 seconds back to the 194. So really, they've got some space to try and make some moves and not be under threat immediately.
Exactly, Julio just running his own race, but we're going to jump back here to Donald Olson. This is the 413 driver that you saw involved in the accident at the beginning. He is closing up on J.R. Williams in front of them. Both of these drivers have taken pit stops already, though, Joe.
Yes, but I think they are outside of the pit window. because they were among our earliest. Yeah, I'm seeing 6 laps ago, we're on lap 8. So yeah, J.R. Williams, unfortunately, going to have to come in yet again, which is why he is the highest driver with a pit stop currently. Back to that battle for second as we hop onto the helmet cam of Menino watching into the first corner. Temperature has not changed too much out there today over the course of the race. It's still at 96 Fahrenheit, but it is relatively warm. So I wonder if these drivers are going to start feeling it as it goes on down through 3, 4, and 5. Once again, quite windy today, though. And I wonder if that could explain why a few drivers have found themselves offline.
Yeah, you'd be a little bit surprised of just how much of an effect the wind can have. Obviously, these cars are designed with the aerodynamics to punch through absolutely undistilled air. As we take a look here at the battle with Lucio Vargas, Michael Broomhead, and Takashi Kita, although I do believe that's Frank Nguyen working his way up and around.
Now that Broomhead, actually, the double lot, gets up into 12th. Looked very easy. I think that was just a mistake out of turn 5 from Lucio Vargas that handed that one over. So Broomhead netting himself another spot to try and get back to where he started this race, which was 11th. The next one he has to do to overtake that was Kita. Hall and Peterson, who we've been watching here and there, are going at it again. And they've got a third person involved. Olivier Legault, just about 9/10 of a second up in front. He's trying to run away. Looks like he's trying to break the draft, actually, as he's just almost out of that range. This would be the spot where they'd get the best tow.
Yeah, and you see him, Legault, there in that white and blue machine as they come out of Le Mans, just kinking that car to the right ever so slightly to try to break the draft a little bit. It's a good move from him as Greg Seitz, not to be denied here, sets yet another fastest lap. Joe, I think that's 4 or 5 in a row that he has just absolutely laid down.
Yeah, into the 55s. Let's watch and see how it's done, because he's extended it to 7.2 seconds ahead of everybody else at this point. As he comes down to the hairpin. Let's see what it looks like into one of the heavier braking zones. Wow, incredibly smooth. Very little movement on that wheel.
It's like watching Jimmy Clark drive around here, frankly, Joe. Just absolutely smooth as can be. No twitches of oversteer, no overcorrections. Watch him again, breaking down, just boom, 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 boom. No sudden jerks on the wheel. An absolute masterclass from Greg Seitz.
Now, I'm not trying to put the commentator's curse on him, but we have to remember that last time, it wasn't his own doing. It wasn't erratic driving or anything that cost him the victory at VIR. It was traffic, which he appears to be approaching. That's Guyon up in front of him, but Guyon's an experienced driver, so I don't expect that to cause issues.
No, Alex is normally used to be the one lapping cars, but we're going to jump back in the field here. This is Bart Cook and Brett Accord currently battling for 19th spot, getting a little spicy.
That's Cook on the outside in the yellow and green, and he's going to be able to stay ahead through Cunningham. Accord gets a good run. Does he dare into Tower? That's a tricky place to make anything happen, but he's strong mid-corner, gains a little bit of time, stays right underneath the rear wing of Bart Cook as they pick up speed up through Bishop. Does he dare? Nope, not into Jean Debienne. Oh, but he's going to get into the back of him. Both of them start to lose out. They hold on to it. Nobody spins. And Barry Cochran tries to take advantage. There he goes. Oh, but he's off track now. Cochran falls back a spot. Accord winds up ahead. Cochran is going to lose back to where he was, and Cook winds up where he was. So
let's take a look at this replay. You can see it here. Both of these drivers, Cook and Accord, starting to fight. A little bit of a close-up bump in the back. An absolutely beautiful display of synchronized driving there as the two of them go. And then you watch, from Cochran, he got a little out of sorts. That other car on the inside line to him, just making him psych himself out. We ride on board with Cochran here. Here you can see it. He thinks he's got the position, but actually ran over that curb. That beached out the car ever so slightly and cost him a couple of tenths, and that was really the setup of not being able to get that full pass done.
Of those three, Bart Cook did come into pit lane afterwards, so the 45 has finished what I believe is his scheduled stop. Yeah, we're well into the pit window, rather. And we are good for those who want to try an alternate strategy, but don't think we'll see these two do so. Menino and Verity still separated by all of 0.4 of a second. Let's watch and compare, see what the driving is like from David versus what we saw with Greg.
And this will be a great place to check that out, Joe. You see in sixth gear taking advantage of the draft. Oh, look at that. Those little micro corrections he's having to do to set the car up into the corner. And you can even see it there with that right front tire, just how much it's feathering around, moving ever so slightly as David has to try to get the car to position where he wants it to, rather than it just sort of effortlessly going there like our leader Greg Seitz was able to do. Watch him again here through this lead up in the 3-4-5 complex. You'll see little twitches here and there. That may not look like much, but it costs you so much time.
And we have another taker from the front group into the pits. That's Matthew Hall. Looks like Michael Broomhead is going to join him. Very quick stop for Hall, 6 seconds, sub 6 seconds. And the 911 is out and running. Let's see, where is he going to return? Unfortunately, it appears to be in a bit of traffic. And I think 15th place is Thurman is going to go by. And that's where he stops. But now he's got to try and deal with traffic of cars who have yet to stop.
Yeah, and that's going to be the problem. On the backstretch, you should be just fine to do it. We ride on board with Matthew Hall here. That battle continuing after the pit stops as you see him there and do that. Just a quick note, Michael Broomhead looked like he missed his pit box ever so slightly, so that cost him some time in the pits. But both of those drivers, Joe, Hall and Broomhead, neither took tires, so clearly my advice not being heeded.
Yeah, and the temperatures are still about the same as we head off to watch Alexander here in a nice little fight. This is coming through Collier. That's Neil leading ahead of Aaron Roofs there for 12th position. Just ahead of what we were watching before, Thurman, Hall, and Gunderson after Hall took his pit stop. Kind of sort of a train here going on, DJ, but they're all kind of just spread apart. I think Hall is pretty well set to try and overtake, though. He's looking like he's right on the tail of Thurman. Make that beside Thurman, and now past Thurman.
Hoi, oi, oi. He got lucky there, though, Joe. If you saw that oversteer moment he had, he looked like he was drifting the car coming out of Le Mans, but clearly not costing him that much time as I think Thurman got over onto the grass a little bit. Thurman tries to counter, takes a wider line through the corner, but that not really working, as there you see how far ahead Hall was able to get around him.
Ooh, some of the other drivers that were around Hall have pitted. Peterson is in and out, and so is Legault. Where's Hall? That's all right with him now. He's going to get past Legault, but not past Peterson. Dave retains 10th place.
And of that, Olivier Legault took tires, Joe, so that explains for a little bit of a slower stop. And we'll have to keep an eye if Olivier's times are able to get a little bit faster with that fresh set of boots.
20 minutes left now, so we're past the halfway mark. Maybe that's why we're seeing some drivers decide it's time to try and come in and challenge. Let's see if any of our second and third place drivers come in and pit this time. Maybe Menino. Maybe he's trying to see if he can leapfrog Verity with some fuel saving. Come in, snatch the spot, and then leave him behind. So we ride on board the Illinois driver. He gets close once again. Two different, very different lines coming through Sunset Bend.
And Seitz is in, as both are Verity and Menino.
So, top three are in. Is this the end of our pit window? I think it might be, because Palacio is in. Nguyen is in. Yes, this appears to be as far as most of them can go. Greg Seitz at a monstrous gap. Unlikely we'll see him lose that. Indeed, he is already out of the pits as we watch Roofs and this little fight be ahead of Peterson and Hall. Hall might have a shot. Peterson doesn't defend as they come into Sunset Bend. Wheel to wheel they go. Up and around, a bobble though from Hall, trying to keep the car under control. He's going to be able to just barely do it and not lose the spot to Peterson. Looks like Dave takes a little bit of a look on the inside, keeps his nose shown, and then thinks better of it.
And Olivier Legault thinking about jumping into the action there. As who's that?
That's Nguyen.
That's Nguyen. Nguyen with a great stop, able to put himself back up into the action. But Legault's going to have the preferred line coming through the exit, and Nguyen's going to lose out.
Just caught around the outside, unfortunately. No changes amongst our top pitters. Verity still in second, Menino third, Palacio in fourth. Hall comes back out in fifth and is looking like he is dropping Peterson like a rock now that he's gotten by.
Yeah, Matthew Hall really putting in some good time here, currently sitting in P5. You can see he is 20 seconds back of Greg Seitz, but that's just because Greg Seitz has been unstoppable today. But really pulling out that gap quite well. It's up to about a couple of seconds, 1.3 seconds.
All right, so now that all the stops are done, it has to be on track. Into Tower Corner, we watch the battle between Peterson and Legault. Nguyen's got a front row seat to the action here, and this is to decide the sixth position out on the track. They come down into Jean Demian. Let's see who can set themselves up out of Le Mans the best. This is that critical corner exit. Oh, I think Peterson a little hot into there.
Yeah, and Legault took a very nice wide line. Look, Peterson getting very, very shallow. You can see Legault starting to move around. Peterson goes defensive. What's Legault going to do? There he goes, popping out to the outside. He's going to have to carry the momentum around. Peterson advantage here, but did he overcook it coming through Sunset? Looks like he's able to keep the power down. Great defensive driving from Dave Peterson.
I thought he went in too high as well. It just was a very early bit of braking from Legault in the process of deciding what's best here. Goes in very shallow coming into the first corner. Doesn't affect him too badly as they both exit. And then as they line up the braking for three, I see Adam Wright into the pits for a second time, I think, if I'm seeing correctly. I'm not sure why that is. I'll have to look into that later, see.
Joe, that's his first stop. He was able to eke it out another lap. I was checking in on him the last lap, and I wasn't sure. I thought it was an anomaly, but Wright able to stretch out a little bit more fuel than everybody else.
Holy cow. Well, Mr. Featherfoot there for the number 87. Great job on saving the fuel. Let's see if that nets him anything more by the end of the race. Heading over to Tyler Gore, though. He's behind two cars right now, Duhamel and Kita. Remember, Kita started this thing in 21st, and this, again, is legitimate. This is after his pit stop. And up to 10th, Adam Wright, who started this race, or started this lap ahead of him, is now back to 14th. So up to 9th, excuse me, I guess it is for Takeshi Kita on the live timing. Duhamel back behind him in 10th. And of course, Tyler Gore started in 14th, so he's up 2 spots.
So we're going to go back to that battle we've been watching as they go back down onto the Ullman Straight. This is Peterson, Legault, Hall in front, starting to pull out a little bit, but Peterson catching him on this last lap. So Dave Peterson clearly has some speed left over in that green-wheeled machine, gets very close to the apex of Sunset. Not able to capitalize, though, as it looks like Matthew Hall took a little bit of a wider line there, and that it was able to carry a little bit more momentum out of that last corner.
So back into T1 for all three of them. And up at the front of the group, Matthew Hall, who at first was stretching away, now finds himself being re-caught by the 35. 0.6 of a second between them. He talked about traffic a little bit earlier on. We still have actually 27 drivers out here running right now, but it's such a long lap around here. It doesn't seem like it looks pretty thin currently.
Yeah, we're not getting a whole lot here. Just looking very quickly at Greg's sights, the next competition he's got Alex Guyon, whose day has not been going well at all. 7.5 seconds up the road from sights. And then up from him, Joe, J.R. Williams and Donald Olson, 22 and 39 seconds up the road respectively. So I don't think he's going to have to deal with a lot of lap cars here today.
Certainly doesn't appear to be the case, as the 74 brings it back onto the Ullman Straight. Clear road ahead of him, and less than 14 minutes on the clock that he just has to keep it steady, keep it clean, and claim win number 2 of this season. Not quite the case between Hall, Peterson, and Legault, who still remain tightly compacted here, coming to the same bit of straightaway that we just saw sights on. And that's a decent run for Peterson. I wonder if he might have something for Hall.
He might. And Joe, taking a look at this, I'm wondering if there's any bit of setup compromise that may be going on here. Maybe a situation where Dave Peterson's just set up a little bit better for the exit of the corner. Good run from Peterson out of Sunset. He's able to get very close to Matthew Hall here. Hall having to go defensive, juking out to what will be the outside of turn 1. But here comes Peterson up the inside.
He's going to claim the apex, but it looks like an over-under maybe for Hall. Not quite. Still, he gets better momentum. He's trying on the inside down into turn 3. Very deep onto the brakes as they go wheel to wheel through there, giving each other just enough space through the corners. No one willing to give way between them, but Peterson wins out, defending from the outside through multiple corners. Here comes Legault as well. This is going to change the complexion completely, making a 3-car fight now. And look at them bobbing and weaving, almost a dogfight as they try and pick their positions.
Absolutely great respect there between Dave Peterson and Matthew Hall. Both drivers just giving each other just enough room through those fast sweepers. Absolutely incredible. But here comes Matthew Hall back on Dave Peterson. Is he going to take a look to the inside? No, he is not. He's going to let him stand through turn 10. But Olivier Legault right up behind the gearbox of Matthew Hall. So Hall having to look in the front and the back of that car constantly. There you see, interesting there, Peterson has taken that wide line every single time. Hall variable on it. Better run though. Looks like through tower from Legault. That's going to pull him up, and if they're not careful, 8th place of Frank Nguyen is going to catch up very quickly.
I was just noticing that too. That purple and black car behind them is getting ever closer. Hall gets a threat from Legault down into Jean Demian, but Olivier looks like he doesn't want it there. Maybe this is what he's sizing him up for, the run down to Sunset. If he was, it didn't pan out. They all come off almost equidistant off the corner.
Everybody getting the exact run they needed to out of that corner out of Le Mans. And here they go now into Sunset. Hall taking a very wide apex in, going to try to pinch off the corner a little bit, carry some more speed. I don't think that worked for him. A little bit more road. You see Legault bobbing and weaving. Same with Hall, trying to go this way and that way, fight off their defendants as much as possible, but they're going to remain equidistant. But Legault takes a big look to the inside, but backs off, but that's going to bring the win right up behind his gearbox.
And somehow we missed something with Menino overtaking Verity. I'm trying to find it. It looks like it was a long time ago. And I think, oh, it was a mistake from Verity out of the hairpin. He spun the tires, and that opened the door for David to snatch second back.
He did indeed. So way to go, David Menino, putting that car up into second place. Currently has a gap of about 1.5 seconds up the road, but there you go. You can see him right there. Good job. He's starting to build that gap even more. It's up to 2.2 seconds. So David very clearly held up by Stephen Verity and just pressured the Rust Racing driver into a mistake.
Down into tower once more. This is not over as they exit up towards Bishop, being led by the 35 of Dave Peterson. That's the number 3 of Menino on screen in second. Oh, and side by side, oh, they come together. Oh no, down into Jean Debienne. Peterson and Hall find themselves damaged and off to the side of the road.
Oh, we're going to jump back and take a look at the replay here. Good overhead shot. That is, you can see this. This is Hall and Peterson. Absolutely heartbreak for these two drivers. Peterson gets a bad run. They're out of tower. You can see Hall goes down to the inside, ready for the move. I don't think Dave Peterson thought he was going to take it, Joe. I really don't think he expected him to be there.
So Hall and Peterson, unfortunately, both damaged enough that they had to tow to the pits. So they are essentially done for the day. Wow. So Legault gets a 2 for 1. That puts him up to 5th. Unfortunately, him being held up means that Nguyen has gained enough ground that he thinks he could get a top 5. We hop on board with Frank as the Canadian driver is sizing up his fellow Canadian driver. Seeing if he could do something here in Florida. Ooh, this is a very good run. Is he daring? No, he's going to stay on the racing line down into the hairpin.
And Joe, you said it at the top of the broadcast. Frank Nguyen, really one of the surprises of this series. He is an incredibly exciting driver to watch. Very, very aggressive, very heads up, and will go for the overtake if given the opportunity. So do not be surprised if he does not spend a lot of time dawdling behind Olivier Legault here. If Legault gives him the slightest angle, I think Nguyen is going to pounce.
A modest driver as well. Remember, he said he didn't expect to do well at VIR, and there you go. He was with the top 5 last week of all things. The 97 within just a couple car lengths of Olivier Legault and the 88. And we've only got 8 minutes left on the clock at this moment.
Yeah, so Frank doesn't have a whole lot of time. That'll come down to about 4, maybe 5 laps for both of these drivers to get around the circuit. There you see Olivier going very defensive. Big jink out to the right to try to break that draft. Looks like it's relatively effective, but Nguyen still able to close. Great closing speed for Nguyen, but I think he had to check up in the beginning of Sunset.
Wow, Olivier Legault's feeling it because I thought he was well far enough away. He really didn't need to weave. But it feels under threat from Frank Nguyen as things sit. They head through turn 1. Oh, but Frank was a little hot into there. He checks up out of the corner. That costs him multiple car lengths.
It will, but we saw Frank's ability to really close in the end of the second sector. And Joe, I briefly touched on this earlier. We may be having a little bit of a setup change. I think Nguyen may be running a little bit lower downforce. We
ride on board with him. We switch back now to Tyler Gore, who's trying to fight with Michael Broomhead. Ooh, Broomhead's looking very well positioned. Coming through Big Bend. He's going to go around the outside as Gore plays defensive into the hairpin, but he breaks very early. And Michael Broomhead easily slips into 9th.
And Joe, I think for Tyler Gore, that may be a move that has its roots in the championship standings. Gore is currently the 2nd placed AM driver right now, and he knows he is at the top. His closest challenger, Brian Hotham, well down the order today, so he doesn't have that direct challenge. He just wants to pick up the maximum amount of points for that AM battle.
Right now, Duhamel leads the AM drivers in 8th place in the number 617. Just about where he started. He qualified in 9th, so he can't be too unhappy with this one. Really, I think the hard charger of the race today has to be Takeshi Kita, who, despite his lack of practice, still put a qualifying time in and has somehow worked his way up from 21st into 7th. There you see the number 30 currently running down the Ullman straight. Only has to make 5 more minutes to bring this one home.
And Joe, much like Frank Nguyen, Takashi Kita, one of the aggressive drivers in this series, he is an absolute delight to watch run a race. Brilliant overtaker. He's just got to work on his qualifying time to get better. But we're going to jump back up to that battle with Frank Nguyen and Olivier Legault.
Legault still leads And the blue, white, and black being followed by the black and purple of Frank Nguyen. Falls back once again. Seems like those corner exits just not treating Frank as well.
No, and I don't know, as I was mentioning earlier, if that's maybe a setup problem for Frank or if it's just a driving style problem, as it's the slow corner exits really seeming to affect him a little bit, and he loses ground there. But when he comes through the sweepers and gets onto the fast back stretch, he's really able to gain some ground. But this is the closest he's been since we saw that little bobble from him into turn one. He's only about 0.6 of a second back, so he's going to be hoping to make this move stick here with just over 4 minutes to go.
We asked at the top of the show if attrition will affect these drivers. It didn't for much of the race, but now that it's come later on, seems like the bumps are indeed too much for a few. Wildridge, Bowden, Richards, Roofs, Hall, and most recently Peterson, and it looks like potentially Colander as well, have had to call it quits for the day. Looking now at the battle between Thurman and Adam Wright. This is for 12th position here in the mid-pack.
Yeah, Brett Thurman not having his best drive. We have seen him way up towards the pointier end of the field, specifically last weekend out at VIR. So battling back for 12th, not exactly what that SRT Esports driver is going to want to be doing, but trying to put up a good chase here to Adam Wright in the AM class ahead of him. You can see Adam taking a very aggressive approach into that last corner of Le Mans. Thurman's going to hope to get tucked up behind here in the draft a little bit. He's closing ever so slightly, but I don't think he's got enough to make the move.
I'm trying to remember, I can't remember who really was quite at fault, at least from our perspective, between Thurman and Williams. But remember, he was involved in that tussle on lap one into the hairpin. So I think maybe that's why, as he goes way wide off of Sunset, that's why we're seeing Thurman down in 13th despite qualifying in 6th. Williams, by the way, who started in 5th, he is now in 18th, and actually the last car on the lead lap. Meanwhile, Broomhead and Duhamel here, still working on that 8th place fight between the pair of them. And I think they're going to get white flag next time by. Yeah, I'm pretty certain they are.
And so we ride on board here with Sean Duhamel, the AM driver, trying to chase down Michael Broomhead in that 00 car. Excuse me, that's the other way around. Broomhead's trying to chase down Duhamel. As Broomhead, very good on the brakes there, really able to close that down quickly. That is Takashi Kita ahead of them. They've been able to catch him. That gap was up closer to about 2 seconds a couple of laps ago.
And correcting myself, I was wrong. It is 2 laps to go. It was tight, but they'll get one more after this one as well. So we continue to watch Duhamel taking it down towards the back stretch. Broomhead just behind him. Look at that. Immediately goes off the race line. Oh, no. He's just going to let him have it. Looks like Duhamel saw the writing on the wall, and he is also in survival mode. So we jump back to Nguyen instead for this battle for 5th. Coming through the first corner. Ooh, this time, are we going to see a switch around? Is Nguyen the one with a better run? He has got a much better run, but it's not a very long straight down to turn 3. Ahead of them is Colander. Is he going to cause issues in this fight? No, he's not. Great job for Nick pulling off to the side and letting our leaders by.
Yeah, massive kudos to Nicholas Colander. As I said, they were getting that area where it would get very nasty to try to overtake somebody. As there you see on your screen, that is Thurman able to get around Adam Wright.
So some changes are happening here late in the race. It's not too late to make something work. For Greg Seitz, he's made this whole day work for him, as he's going to take the white flag here in about a corner. I'm also keeping half an eye on the battle for 5th. That's really the closest battle we've got amongst the top runners. Poor Verity, with his mistake, has not been able to catch back up to Menino to get within striking distance. So that one looks like it has turned into a dud. We ride on board with Frank, looking up ahead at Olivier Legault. And once again, every single time, it seems like Frank just chucks that car in and hopes that it'll stick.
Well, Joe, that's the thing with drivers like Frank. Aggressive driving style. It works absolutely flawlessly when it is done to perfection. But if you just step a mere millimeter out of the line, it can come back to bite you just like that. But doing his best to stay as close as he can to Olivier here. They'll take the white flag as they cross the line. So Frank's just got one more lap to try to get this done.
Watching from his helmet cam one more time. Frank Nguyen. And remember Broomhead and his fight. Well, now it has turned into a battle with Kita instead. Taking a very wide line, trying to shoot off the corner, taking the white flag. Can he do this? Broomhead looks like he's got speed and he's got the aggression. But can he overtake Kita, who has been very good today in trying to gain positions, and I'm sure he will not want to give them up.
I have to imagine that is true, and that ahead of them is Alex Guyon. That is lap traffic, so we'll have to see if Alex proves to be a little bit of fly in the ointment here, but we're going to follow Greg Seitz, our leader, as he comes through this sequence of corners, lines up Le Mans for one last time, and blasts down the Ullman Straight.
Weaving in celebration. The 74 has looked pretty flawless today. He took the pole. He stretched away from the field, was never hassled by anybody. And luck seems to finally be turning around for the 74 of Greg Seitz, who takes victory here today in Florida in round 5 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 Series.
A whopping 15 seconds back from him, David Menino looks like he will be able to cross the line. As Verity's very low on fuel, I think he's down. Palacio, is that Palacio close to getting by him?
No. That's Menino and Verity. Verity had caught up to Menino and just ran out of time, it seems. He managed to cut it down to about half a second, but this battle is looking awful tight as Legault has to defend on Frank Nguyen, but Nguyen doesn't have enough, and as they cross, he'll settle for 6, but I think he should be proud of that one. What about Broomhead coming up into Sunset? He's trying to square him off. Can he maybe try and launch off the corner and get him on the run to the line? It's going to be awful close. He'll have the slipstream, but it comes up fast, and Takeshi Kita just ekes into 7th ahead of Broomhead.
Takashi Kita escaping by the hair on his chinny chin chin with that one to hold on to 7th place. We watch here, that is Adam Wright in 12th coming across the line. Brett Thurman there right in front of him. Not able to make a challenge, but Brett's going to cross the line to come home in 12th position behind Adam.
Only other battle I can see is between Cook and Williams. I remember Williams is slightly out of position, though he may be fighting some damage still. He sends it in deep anyways. Bart Cook to the inside. Oh, maybe a little too deep. How did he not hit the wall? J.R. Williams almost threw it away, but I guess he was the last one on the lead lap, so it wouldn't have mattered too much. He doesn't get the spot. And that's going to send us to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because we've got more to come.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. We just watched round 5 in the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, but in the end, Greg Seitz becomes the first repeat winner of the season. He did it from pole and honestly just looked like nobody could touch him today. David Menino was more distracted behind him because he was in a fight with Stephen Verity, and he prevailed with a second place. Verity still finishing 4 out of 5 races on the podium, claiming a third today. Julio Palacio was 4th with Olivier Legault in a close fight, still just finishing within the top 5, barely ahead of Frank DeWin, who finished 6th behind him. Takeshi Kita was 7th with Michael Broomhead in 8th spot. Sean Duhamel went from, 9th to 9th. And then Lucio Vargas, nice climb going from 17th to 10th.
In 11th place, Tyler Gore going to be able to continue to expand on his AM Championship lead, followed by Brett Thurman and Adam Wright. Matthew Gunderson coming home in 14th, followed by Neil Alexander and Barry Cochran. Bart Cook behind them with J.R. Williams, the last driver to complete the race on the lead lap. Donald Olson in 19th, 1 lap down, and a very unlucky Alex Guyon in 20th.
First went to Brian Hotham with David Hebert in 22nd. Then we get to cars 2 laps down with Brett Accord in 23rd and Nick Colander in 24th. After that, it's DNFs, Hall, Peterson, Roos, Richards, Bowden, and Wildridge. Unfortunately, not seeing the checkered flag today. But our first man to see the checkered flag was Greg Seitz, and he's claimed victory number 2 on the season, helping him to try and get back up to that top spot. Greg, this has got to feel like a relief after your misfortune last week.
Yeah, things went a little better. I was a lot more cautious around the back markers that caused the issue last week, so but I had plenty of gap, so I could play it super safe.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like you found something that the other drivers hadn't today. You were half a second ahead in the qualifying. I believe you finished with that much margin in warm-up, and then the race was 16 seconds by the end. I mean, is there any special secret that you find to Sebring that maybe the others don't know about?
I don't know. I spent a lot of time working on the setup to get it so it would handle the famous bumps here at Sebring. So I think that helped me a lot. I could take a little more curb, I think, than probably the other guys because the car responded really well over those, and that just let me get a little extra drive out of the corner sometimes. So, if there was any secret at all, that would have been, the one thing that I think, helped me to get a little bit better lap times.
It looked like it worked. This will chip away at Verity's lead, but I don't think you'll be overtaking him in points quite yet. Looks like Verity's going to be a tough cookie. He's been very consistent. Are you keeping half an eye on him?
Yeah, he's my teammate, so it's all good. He's definitely doing great. He's the guy who's the most consistent without a doubt this season, and that's paying off for him big time because you can be fast in one race and have some incidents in another, and that doesn't really get you anywhere. But just those consistent second and thirds that he's been kind of knocking out are really working great for him. So I'm really happy for him. Actually, this is I think one of his best seasons.
See that camaraderie. Well, we'll watch and see how it all plays out by the end of the season. And again, congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Was Greg Seitz our winner here today. And David Menino, who was in a pretty epic battle there for that second spot, is talking to DJ Clark.
Well, David, it looks like you and Steven were running neck and neck through the majority of that race, but then a little bobble by Verity just let you slip on by.
Yeah, that was lucky for me for sure. He definitely had the pace on me today. I was giving everything I had just to keep it in his draft and before the pits, and you could tell he was starting to catch me towards the end. So yeah, I was lucky. Just kept it without any mistakes, and one little bobble up allowed me to get second.
Well, I was going to ask you about that last lap. Was that just was there a little bit of fuel saving you had to do, or was that just sheer pace from Verity able to reel you back in?
Nah, that was sheer pace from Verity. I was pretty much driving flat out from the moment I passed him, because I knew that he had the pace on me and I needed to keep him out of draft. But yeah, he had amazing pace today.
Well, I got to ask you about the big picture with this. You know, this Greg does make the first two-time winner this year. Championship battle's getting a little bit close across the board. If Greg has a little bit more bad luck, do you think, I guess, how do you like your championship chances?
Well, I think you mentioned it perfectly. It'll have to be bad luck. He's got pace on us on every road course so far, anywhere between 0.2 to a half a second, this week being closer to a half a second. So, yeah, it'll take some bad luck for sure in order to beat him. He's got the pace on us, but I feel pretty good about my chances of maybe getting like a second or third.
Well, we'll be rooting you on the entire way. David, anybody you'd like to thank before we let you go tonight?
Yeah, I would like to thank my team, the SRT Esports team. Great group of guys that have helped me a lot with the setup here prior to this race. I wanted to thank you guys for broadcasting this as well.
Well, thank you very much, David, and congratulations again on a well-deserved second place tonight.
Thank you.
And in third place, Joe Peak has caught up with our driver, Stephen Verity.
Indeed, Stephen, your teammate have very complimentary words for you after that race. Seems to think very highly of you. But what about you of yourself? This third place, happy with the performance or dissatisfied?
I mean, I'll take it. It's I felt like I had good pace today. And unfortunately, it looked like it was going to be another 45 minutes, about a half second in front of Dave Menino, which is not what I was looking forward to. And I just got caught out by a lapped car in the hairpin there. And you're just so on the threshold to take that corner at like optimum pace. And I just got in the power a little too early. And that gave David the opportunity he needed to get past. So frustrating to have made the mistake. But I'll take third.
Still claims you valuable points. And Menino also seemed to say that he thinks it's going to take some bad luck from Greg for him to have a chance at the championship. Do you harbor similar feelings? Or do you think, especially being his teammate, that you can maybe find some little bits and things that allow you to really fight him wheel to wheel?
I don't think that I'm catching Greg's sights anytime soon, I'll be honest. As long as Greg has clean races, then I can't touch him in terms of pace.
Well, the next round, though, we're heading off to Silverstone, so at least it'll be a little less bumpy. Do you feel like you'll be able to claim another podium? Because right now you're 4 for 5, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just taking it like a day at a time, just trying to focus on just getting the pace. I like Silverstone. It's a fun track, so I'm looking forward to racing there next week, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll look out for you. That was Stephen Verity, who finished third, unfortunately falling one position down, but giving us some great action between himself and David Menino. That closes us out on our interviews tonight. So before we go, let's give some thank yous, of course, to our sponsors, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. SIMMSA can be found at SIMMSA.net if you want to see how you can get involved with the world of sim racing. And if you want to try and do some trading yourself, check out NinjaTrader at NinjaTrader.com. And then, of course, if you want to try and fancy up your sim rig, check out Butt Kicker products. They can be found at simply thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you see listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. And also, there's our social media outlets where you can get a hold of us. Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. The next race, as we mentioned, going to be at Silverstone, Thursday, February 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.